Nobel Prize-winning writer Han Jiang and Korean women's literature. Why doesn't she want to celebrate? Last Thursday, Han Jiang won the Nobel Prize for Literature, once again proving South Korea's extremely powerful cultural soft power. The Nobel Prize for Literature is the most prestigious literary award in the world. In its 1 to 3 year history, Han Jiang is the first Korean woman to win the award and the first Asian woman to win the award. Before her achievement, Bong Joon-ho won a Best Picture Oscar in 2020 for Parasite, TV series like Netflix's Squid Game, and BTS. K-pop groups such as BTS and Blackpink have also achieved widespread success. Han Jiang's most famous work abroad is The Vegetarian. Today, Korean female novelists and poets are in their heyday, presenting a wealth of works to international readers, especially in translation. So Han Jiang's award comes at a perfect time. Yet while her victory was widely hailed as the crowning achievement of Korean culture, what Han Jiang and these female writers represented was a rebellion against a Korean culture that remains deeply rooted in patriarchy and sometimes misogyny. The concept of performance. Since the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism was renamed in 2008, only one of the 10 ministers in the ministry is a woman. Before Han Jiang won the award, South Korean literary critics, who are dominated by men, had long admired the poet Ko Yoon and considered him the country's most likely and most qualified candidate to win the Nobel Prize. Before the sexual abuse allegations against him surfaced, local journalists would gather in front of his home on the eve of the Nobel Prize announcement. Han Jiang has never attracted so many people. For her and other Korean female writers, writing is a form of dissent and resistance, said writer Yeong-hye, whose short story collection The Cursed Rabbit will be published in English in 2022. Last year, Han Jiang himself recommended the works of several female writers in the New York Times, and this book was one of them. South Korea is obsessed with the international recognition that comes with awards such as Olympic gold medals and Nobel Prizes. Before Thursday, South Korea had only one Nobel laureate, former President Kim Dae-jung. In 2000, he received the Peace Prize for his fight for democracy under military rule and for his efforts to achieve reconciliation and peace with North Korea. The Nobel Prize, then and now, is closely tied to South Korea's turbulent modern history, a history of partition, war, military dictatorship, and long and often bloody struggles for democracy and labor rights on the Korean peninsula. Important symbol. In South Korea, Han Jiang is best known for Human Acts, a novel about the massacre of pro-democracy activists in Gwangju in 1980. According to opposition lawmaker Kang Yeong-hye, the government of South Korea's conservative President Park Geun-hye from her inauguration in 2013 until her impeachment in 2017 put Han on a blacklist of writers, artists, and directors it deemed unfriendly, and banned her from participating in government-controlled support programs. The list has never been made public, but Kang Yeong-hye said Han was blacklisted because the brutal repression documented in The Boys was carried out by past conservative authoritarian regimes. Han Jiang's 2021 novel We Do Not Part discusses another massacre of civilians that many conservative South Koreans do not want to see in public debate. Han Jiang said that her writing was inspired by issues caused by human violence in Korean history. She said an important element of The Vegetarian, her guilt about meat consumption, was related to the massacre in her hometown of Gwangju. When talking about the writing process of The Boy Is Coming, she said, "The thing I felt most when writing this book was pain, an overwhelming pain. When writing this novel, I felt it almost every day, cry." On Friday, Han Jiang's novelist father, 84-year-old Han Seung-won, told South Korean reporters that his daughter had decided not to hold a press conference to talk about the Nobel Prize because of the wider violence. "She told me that she didn't want to celebrate when people were dying in wars in Ukraine and the Middle East every day," South Korean media quoted Han Seung-won as saying when meeting reporters in southwestern South Korea. Han Jiang's work deals with heavy historical burdens, but can also be considered feminist. In The Vegetarian, the heroine's decision not to eat meat can be read as an act of rebellion against patriarchy. In South Korea, where women still face discrimination in politics, business, and the news media, literature is an outlet for them to express their power. "It's one of the few spaces where you can be gender neutral," said Chrissy Lee, a novelist now living in Seoul. "Any age, any gender can write." Other female writers said they were not surprised that a woman now represents South Korea's literary force on the global stage. Even in a male-dominated era, the strongest voices in literature came from the most oppressed groups, said Han Jiang, author of The Birth of Korean Cool: How One Country Conquered the World Through Pop Culture. People who are in trouble or marginalized groups, Han Jiang said, have to make a very clear and loud voice, otherwise they won't be heard, and this has always been reflected in literature. Novelist Chris Lee said that in recent years, with the growth of the professional female community, female readers have become more and more influential in the Korean literary market. The rise of international and domestic campaigns against sexual harassment and assault has also fueled women's desire to speak out. Chris Lee said Han Jiang is a woman of a certain generation who grew up under patriarchy and in a country with a modern history of violence, and I think her work reflects that. Many works by women that have been translated into English, including some that are more commercial than strictly literary, address themes that are typically seen as female categories, such as motherhood or body image. These topics reflect the interests of many American and British readers. Korean novels that have resonated internationally include Cho Nam-ju's Kim Ji-young, born 1982, and Shin Kyung-suk's Please Look After Mom, about a woman who sacrificed herself. The story of a lost mother won the Man Asian Literary Award in 2011. Yet readers seem to want more than straight-up feminist material. We are all excited to see different types of stories, and this is also reflected in the different types of stories being created and translated, said Kim Ji-young. She has translated several Korean novels into English, including Please Take Care of My Mother. 30 years ago, all that was translated into English were literary works, Kim Ji-young said. Now, you're seeing science fiction, fantasy, and memoir being translated into English. The biggest limitation, she said, is the number of translators. In recent years, government funding for cultural and artistic education in schools has been declining. We need more translators to translate the diversity and amazing breadth of Korean literature into English and other languages, Kim said. The Korean literary community and Koreans living abroad hope that Han's Nobel Prize will draw attention to Korean books, just as movies and TV dramas have made Korean stories popular in the film and television industry. Because they watched Korean movies first, people began to realize that Koreans are very good at telling stories, Han Jiang said. Han Jiang's win will bring new understanding of Korean high culture, as this is a country known for producing popular culture, Han Jiang said. But it's not just a country of pop culture, it's also a country of ideas. So I think this can open people's eyes. Oh, Korea isn't just about movies and pop groups. They also have a rich literature. Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.